Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Star Wars Corner. Today we are looking at 3 important things from episode 5 of the season 7 Clone Wars, Gone Without a Trace. Let's jump right in. Of course, this is Ahsoka's season 7 debut, but there's a few things that we need to know as background. And the first is that at the end of season 5, Ahsoka was wrongly accused of crimes, and ultimately she was found innocent. Anakin Skywalker confronts Barriss Offee, who is the real culprit, and Ahsoka is declared innocent. She's exonerated. It's all good, but Ahsoka still, through that, decides that it was time for her to part ways with the Jedi Order. They didn't stand with her in the midst of this trial, so it's time for her to move on and start a new path. So that's the last time that we saw Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, was parting ways. There's kind of this meaningful moment between her and Anakin. And then jumping now to season 7, we're getting to pick up where Ahsoka's story is out. Obviously, some time has passed because she looks a lot older in this, but she is finding her way. She doesn't know what's next, and one of the things that is important about this episode, Gone Without a Trace, is that we start to get into her mind, especially in terms of what she thinks about the Jedi Order as she's left the Jedi. And here's the thing. I think that Ahsoka still wants to believe in the Jedi. There's a moment where she's working on her speeder bike with Trace, and Trace basically says, yeah, the Jedi are not what I thought they were. They're off busy way up in the upper levels of Coruscant, starting wars and doing all sorts of things. They've forgotten about people like me. People like Trace, and Trace represents the lower levels of Coruscant, but also the typical citizen throughout the galaxy. And Trace says that the Jedi have forgotten about her. And here's why I think Ahsoka still wants to believe in the Jedi, because she starts to defend the Jedi, but realizes that she doesn't quite have the words to say. And we see that Ahsoka is struggling with the Jedi Order and their role in the war and where they're at. So I think at this point, Ahsoka still wants to believe in the Jedi. She's parted ways with them, but she still wants to believe that they're looking after the galaxy to the best of their ability. The second observation from this episode is that the war itself, the Clone Wars, are largely irrelevant to most citizens of the galaxy. Now, of course, the politicians and some of the higher levels are affected by this. Of course, the Jedi are affected by the war. Some leadership of different planets and military factions are affected by the war, but by and large, the average citizen, represented by Trace and her sister here, are just trying to find their place in the galaxy. They're still trying to figure out how to survive in a galaxy that seems to have largely forgotten them. How to survive under a government that hasn't really paid attention to them for the last who knows how long. And most citizens are struggling to just find their place in the galaxy. And the third important thing from episode 5 is that we get a foreshadow of what life is going to be like for Jedi after Order 66. And of course, one of the common themes of this final season of the Clone Wars is this is how it's going to lead up to Order 66. This is how it's going to lead up to Revenge of the Sith. And in this episode, we kind of get a picture of what it's going to look like for surviving Jedi after Order 66. And we see this in the way that Ahsoka is secretive about her Jedi past, about her Force abilities, about the things that she can do. She's secretive. She's kind of reserved with that. And it's not because she's being hunted down or anything like that. I think it's because at this point, Ahsoka has parted ways with the Jedi and just needs to start a new path. And if she's going around using the Force and acting like a Jedi, it's going to be hard for other people to give her that new start she's looking for. But there's a couple moments where, based off of the conversation she has with Trace, she's reserved about her Jedi past. She's keeping that a secret because there is a stigma already forming about the Jedi. Largely, a lot of regular citizens of the galaxy don't really care for the Jedi. And Ahsoka's hiding that. She's hiding from that She uses the Force to save Trace, but it's very discreet, and it's clear that it was a last resort for her. And this little kid watches her do that, and it kind of gives like this feeling that Ahsoka has been trying to hide this, but people are going to notice. So this isn't really like a super important thing, but it is something to keep in mind that as this season progresses, we're going to start to see more things that foreshadow Order 66, that foreshadow the end of the Clone Wars, that foreshadow even what life is going to be like in the early days of the Empire. Those were 3 things that I think you need to take away from Gone Without a Trace, the 5th episode of Season 7 of the Clone Wars. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more Star Wars content. I hope you learned something new about Star Wars, and thanks for watching.